it's about time that we visualise some vampires and their environment. So let's take a look at some pictures. First up is a map of the Balkans in 1727. So this is the time that the vampire panics are happening. The key point here is you can see that what is northern Serbia is a militarised border zone between Ottoman and Habsburg empires. So that's Bosnia, Romania, northern Serbia, caught up in this tussle over power, cultural difference between Eastern Orthodox, Catholic and Muslim. So real cultural and political tension. Next up, we have this astonishing document. It was written in 1732, and I'll translate it for you. It says, "Inspection and findings on the so-called vampires or bloodsuckers." So this was produced after Habsburg military officials and a surgeon went to investigate this vampire panic in what is now around northern Serbia. This quite dodgy looking fellow is supposed to be Sava Savanovic, Serbia's oldest vampire. It's an artist's rendition, obviously, and it's frequently used by the Serbian Tourist Board. Now, he became more relevant again recently because in 2012, the mill that this vampire supposedly lived at and would kill people at if they came to grind their grain there and drink their blood, that mill collapsed, which led to the mayor issuing an official warning and saying the local people might want to buy garlic. Tongue-in-cheek or not, people did buy garlic and put it on their windowsills. This is a werewolf woodcut, which was a popular type of image back in the day. It's from 1722, and the reason we've included it is because in Eastern and Southeastern Europe, there was a very strong link between the vampire and the werewolf. You can see here you've got a man's lower half wearing trousers and then the wolf emerging with some shocked-looking villagers in the background. Many communities believed that werewolves became vampires after death. It's the idea of you're a deviant creature in life and then that continues after you die. Next up, we have a former Holy Roman Empress, Maria Theresa, and she sent medics and officials to investigate these vampire panics that were happening in the Balkans, which were her borderlands. Which brings us to Gerald van Swieten, who was the last vampire investigator dispatched by the Empress. After she sent some others who came back with mixed findings that seemed to feed the panic, she thought, I'm going to send my rational Enlightenment guy. And he did exactly what she had hoped. He concluded that there was no vampirism, this was just a misunderstanding of disease and decomposition. You might recognise this guy. This is Lord Byron, who lived from 1788 to 1824. He died young at 36, but made a big impact in his life. And his roguish ways inspired Polidori's vampire, Lord Ruthven, and he was really the transition between the vampire as this peasant figure and the vampire as a suave aristocrat. His daughter, Ada Lovelace, became the world's first computer programmer, and interestingly, he was buried in his family vault in England eventually, because Westminster Abbey refused to bury him there because he was such a controversial figure, and his body was exhumed in 1938, so quite a while after he died, and people remarked that he was very well preserved because there had been rumours about his vampiric tendencies. This black and white photo is of Bram Stoker, the Irish author of the Gothic horror novel Dracula, which was first published in 1897. He actually worked as a theatre manager, not a full-time author, for most of his career, and never visited Transylvania, which is the setting of his most famous novel. He also wrote many other books, but Dracula is his lasting legacy. And speaking of Stoker's inspiration, the fact that Stoker chose the name Dracula brought this man into the picture. And that's because Vlad the Impaler, or Vlad Tepes as he's known in Romania, was called Vlad Dracula, meaning son of Dracul, and this name seemed to capture Stoker's imagination, so he used it. But the real guy was a prince of a province called Wallachia in what is now Romania. He had a really tough upbringing. He was essentially given as a hostage by his father to the enemy. Supposedly he watched people be boiled alive and skinned. Perhaps that gave him a propensity towards violence because he did become a prolific impaler. So Vlad was killed in a battle against the Ottomans in 1476. His head was reportedly chopped off and then sent back to the Ottoman Sultan in Constantinople as a trophy. His body was then buried, allegedly, at Snagov Monastery, which is in the middle of a lake, a very peaceful place. But when that tomb was excavated, the results were inconclusive. So, is he buried there? Was he buried at all? Bela Lugosi is the first English language vampire on the big screen, and for many people the definitive one. He was in the 1931 Universal film Dracula. It was the first English language version and cemented the iconic look, the cape, the accent, and this has been the image of the vampire for generations since, thanks to his stage success in the role and willingness to accept quite a low salary to do it on screen. The vampire became attractive and sexier over time. As we can see, if we do maybe a side-by-side comparison of our original rendition of the Serbian vampire Sava and a modern trio from the Vampire Diaries, you can see that things are looking up for the vampire in terms of sex appeal. It's fair to say. The Vampire Diaries is an example of a vampire becoming a more sympathetic figure, a deeply attractive figure, a Byronic anti-hero in many ways. So those images show us that the original peasant vampire panic in the Balkans refused to die. It just evolved and mutated, and in the nearly 300 years since, it's gone viral.